Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Thursday, February 26th. It's Alyssa Coram here, and a post Nvidia earnings slump hitting the market. We did close off lows, and joining me now to discuss all that and more is my colleague, Ken Shreve. Ken, give us a preview of what we are going to be discussing today.
Well, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. It was a really rough start, but like you mentioned, Ali, we did close off lows. Found a couple of stocks in the transportation sector I think are worth talking about, and one bona fide breakout that looked really good and held well all day. So let's take a look at movie theater chain Imax, and then two stocks in the transportation sector, logistics firm XPO, and then one of the better performing airlines lately, United, UAL.
Sounds like a plan. We'll get to those stocks, but first, let's take a closer look at the major indexes. So, the NASDAQ today, the laggard down 1.2%, but we did close off lows, so we will mention that. The S&P 500 meanwhile down about a half a percent on today's session, so a lot less damaged looking here right at key levels. The Dow on the day finishing essentially flat, just slightly in positive territory, looking okay there. And the Russell 2000 up about 0.6% on the day. We can take a look at the IWM ETF for that, looking in a solid position here. So, what do you make of the action, Ken? Just when we started to see some glimmers of a rotation back into the broader technology sector, into software names, you have this Nvidia earnings report come in, and it seems like that definitely weighed on the broader AI trade today and the NASDAQ.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were some positives to be gleaned. Again, the Nasdaq was down. Let's see, I had the Nasdaq down 2.1% on an intraday basis, and it looks like the closing loss was 1.2%. So we'll take that. Nasdaq did find some support at the 21-day moving average, and believe it or not, I see breadth slightly positive today, so that was pretty surprising. And we also had positive breadth on the NYSE as well, even though the S&P 500 ended lower. And we are going to get distribution days for both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 today. So we'll add distribution days for the count for both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, but encouraged by a nice close off lows for the Nasdaq. Now for the S&P 500, that was a nice close off lows as well. Pretty bullish session for the S&P 500 yesterday with that
Mhm.
nice retaking of the 50-day moving average. S&P 500 was also down sharply earlier in the session. Wasn't down nearly as much as the Nasdaq. I think the intraday loss for the S&P 500, I had it here down 1.2% on an intraday basis, but it did, manage to close even further off its low than the Nasdaq, and managed to close. Looks like right at maybe even a little above its 50-day moving average. So. Um,
Mhm.
like I said, it could have been a lot worse. Think we're probably going to get slightly higher volume on the NYSE. I haven't seen a final volume figure yet on the New York Stock Exchange, but breadth was actually positive on the NYSE as well today. So positive breadth on a down day for the market. We'll
Yeah.
take we'll take that. We'll take that as well. But the real disappointment, the only stock that really didn't fight off lows today at all was Nvidia. Nvidia, despite another really nice earnings report, volume was very heavy. Closed near lows. Looks like it stopped right at its 50-day moving average. I don't know if it closed right at it or maybe even a little below it, but kind of disappointing to really see no buyers at all come in and offer to support the stock and lift the stock off lows like they did with the Nasdaq today. So
Mhm.
it's a little perplexing with Nvidia. This is a stock that you just look at the numbers. I mean, over the past 2 quarters, you have earnings and revenue. They keep accelerating their
Right.
rate of growth, with which normally when you're a growth stock and you're delivering accelerating growth, that is the normally market normally applauds that, and usually stocks grow into their multiples, and you get multiple expansion. But Nvidia seems to be contracting their multiple, so it's just a little perplexing. The growth is really good. We have a little tiny position on leaderboard, and we were hoping it's about a 2.5% position. So we
Mm.
were disappointing to see the market's reaction, uh, to see another quarter of accelerating top line and bottom line growth. But we'll see where the
Mhm.
stock how the stock trades from here. But it was another great quarter, and it was disappointing, but at least we got a nice close off lows for the market
Yeah.
today. But I think it's still a vulnerable market for sure.
Mhm. And this is a great segue here from NVIDIA to taking a look at the broader chip sector, down about 3.3% today. That is the VanEck Semiconductor ETF SMH, which we've been tracking very closely. It's still holding above those shorter term support levels, but to see this sector take that kind of a hit on a day like today, not surprising given what we saw with Nvidia. But is that a warning sign here, Ken, for a sector that has been performing so strongly?
Well, a lot of the selling in tech today was just a lot of your top performing groups. Not surprisingly. So not surprisingly, you see some profit taking hit. Some of your best performing areas of the market. So the SMH, not surprisingly, you saw volume very heavy in a lot of the semiconductor selling today. So obviously volume very heavy in Nvidia. A lot of your leading chip equipment stocks. ASML is a stock that we have on leaderboard, relatively new holding for us in the leaderboard model portfolio. We were encouraged to see the stock, even though a 4% decline in higher volume is not never fun to see. But after four up days in a row, it did come down. And it was basically just a test of that green support level there, the 21-day moving average, a close off lows. So technically, it didn't do anything wrong at all. Found support where it should. So, some selling in the chip equipment group, some of your fiber optic stocks, some of the biggest winners in 2025. They were some losers today. Some of your contract manufacturers. So, not surprising to see some profit taking in some of the biggest winners. But again, we got to close off lows and some of your big winners in the chip equipment group, and again, encouraging to see the Nasdaq close off lows. But it's going to end up being another distribution day, and we are dealing with a Nasdaq that has been under distribution for a little while here,
Mhm.
and clearly struggling underneath that 50-day moving average, and still on a downtrend here. So the longer it stays underneath the 50-day line, and if it keeps trying to get above it and keeps getting turned away, that's just a sign that the index is a little tired here, and may have a little more consolidating to do.
Right. Totally agree, Ken. Let's also quickly highlight two other ETFs before we move on to the three stocks that we want to feature today. So, IGV, this is the software sector ETF, and it had a good day today. So, a little bit of the rotation, maybe out of chips, back into the beaten down software sector, up 2.1% today. Taking a look at a weekly chart this week, undercutting its lows from last April and trying to find some sort of bottom here, Ken. Feels a little early, but that is where we saw the strength today, and where we've seen the strength the last couple of days.
A lot of people calling for a bottom, and maybe not, but looking at the volume
Mhm.
here is what people are looking at, especially in the weekly volume here. When you look at that the weekly chart for IGV, you can see that big weekly volume. We're not even done for the
Mhm.
one more day to
Yep.
go for the week, but you can see how big the weekly volume is so far in IGV. So this is making a case that IGV has possibly bottomed. If you go back to the daily chart, you can see the three up days in a row have come in, exceptionally heavy volume as well. So, yeah, it's making a case it has bottomed, but there has been quite a bit of selling to the downside, and you can see that when you get heavy volume selling like that, it is often a long road back. And you've got
Mhm.
names like Salesforce and Snowflake, and just so many stocks that have just been crushed. And
Yeah.
Salesforce is trying to bottom, Snowflake is trying to bottom, but a lot of overhead supply for these stocks to work through.
Yep.
So technical damage like this normally takes some time to recover. So I'd be careful trying to make money in the software sector at this point. It's a good sector to keep an eye on, but a lot
Yeah.
of technical damage there is probably going to take some time to
Mhm.
recover even a little more.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to make money in the market, but there's a reason why with stocks and ETFs, we like focusing on moves that are above rising moving averages. Having that trend in your favor is very helpful for your odds of success. And that's what we'll continue to focus on by and large here in terms of where we're buying. But we have to call out this kind of rotation that we're seeing, at least on a temporary basis. So it would be nice to see that continue. Only time will tell.
Yeah, yep, no doubt.
Okay, let's take a look at KRE. This is the regional banking ETF. What do you make of the action here, Ken, and this setup?
Yeah, well, we actually added a financial to the model portfolio today, and we're seeing some rotation into the financials. The best out of the S&P's 11 uh, sectors, the best performing sector today was XLF. So the financials did see some money flows today, and the regional banking ETF here recently broke out of this really long consolidation, and now it's pulling back to the 50-day moving average and two up days in a row, and finding some support here. So we're encouraged overall by some of the action that we're seeing in the financial sector. Again, we did add a financial name to the regional bank to the model portfolio today. That's showing some good action at the 10-week moving average. Still fairly lightly invested, right around the mid 60%, maybe just a little bit under 70% invested at this point. So, KRE outperformed today, as did the XLF ETF, and yeah, I think financials are still outperforming here, and as tech stocks look a little bit vulnerable, I think the financials are an area worth paying attention to. So, still seeing some financials pop up here and there in some of our growth screens like the IBD 50 and Market Surge Growth 250. So, an area to keep an eye on.
Okay. Let's now take a look at IMAX, Ken. And I think the intraday chart, at least in the early going, there was some drama, just like, our favorite silver screen flicks here that we can see on the IMAX screens. But it was able to quickly recover. A very strong day here, up 14%. Powerful breakout.
I have not been to an IMAX theater. Have you been to one yourself?
It's been ages, but I have.
You have. It's been a while. Yeah, I have not been to an IMAX theater myself. I know some people that have, and they say it's a kind of a neat experience. Quite immersive. They cost a lot of money to go to, but in a time where people say, well, the movie theater experience, is not. People aren't just going to the movie theater that much. IMAX is really If you look at the earnings that they just delivered for the fourth quarter, really impressive numbers. Earnings up 115%. The revenue was up 35%. And just a really a classic breakout here from, I don't know, this was like a 10, 11, 12 week consolidation, something like this. Stock closed right at the top of the buy zone, so it's probably a little bit stretched here. But I just wanted to call out a really solid earnings report from Imax. We like to see strong fundamentals like this, so probably a good one to keep on the watch list just because of the quality of the latest earnings report, and maybe keep it on the watch list and see how it trades from here. Maybe it pulls back in light volume and just kind of holds in this 5% buy zone. But anytime volume comes into a stock like this, and you see the numbers that you do, you've got a good solid relative strength line with that blue dot, meaning that it's a relative strength line in new high ground as the stock is breaking out of a base or breaking out of consolidation. Got pretty good annual earnings estimates here. So I just wanted to call out a really solid breakout in the market surge, growth 250 today, and probably don't want to chase it up here, but good solid earnings report, and just keep it on the watch list, and maybe get pulls back more into a more palatable buy range from that buy point right around 40. Get an opportunity to get in at a more reasonable entry price. But nice earnings from IMAX.
Mhm. Indeed. Moving on to XPO Logistics. This group is ranked number 35 out of the 197 groups that we track. The earnings growth wasn't strong like IMAX that we saw, but the report investors liked it. Ken, a couple of weeks ago, it had been running up heading into that report. Now we are getting those little ants on the chart. So that indicates a powerful move from not only a price perspective, but a volume perspective as well, and a significant number of up days versus very few down days during an advance. That's when you get those little ants. So, what are you seeing here, Ken?
Yeah, well, the last two stocks we're going to talk about are in the transportation sector, and the transportation sector is a big one in our database. You've got airlines, you've got trucks, you've got logistics companies like XPO, you've got just a lot of different subgroups in the transportation sector. But the common bond among all these groups is that they're leading the market. In fact, if you want to just look at IYT, this is sort of the transportation ETF, and you can see how well this has been performing lately. It was up 2.2% today in a down market. So we're really seeing broad-based strength in the transport sector. So if you look back at XPO, yeah, and another common bond among the transports is that, yeah, generally speaking, you're not seeing 20, 30, 40% growth among a lot of companies in the transport area, but you are seeing companies that are talking about pretty good business prospects for 2026 and 2027. You see XPO's earnings prospects for this year and next. Uh, you know, 20% growth on the bottom line, 29% growth for 2027. So if you look at the weekly chart and look at their earnings going forward, you can see the bottom line growth is expected to kick in coming quarters. The top line growth is expected to pick up the pace a little bit. What I like, similar what to XPO, is just that huge earnings move a few weeks ago where the stock made that big weekly gain, and it's just holding gains here. So it's really showing a lot of strength and support. Again, really tight action up near highs like this is just a way the stock is really showing good support among institutions. Tells me that it's possible that we'll see an alternate entry into this stock. Return on equity of 26% tells me that this is a pretty well-run company. So another stock that we can put on the watch list here and just watch it move sideways right near this 200 level. Maybe get another way into this stock. I think the transportation sector is an area that we should be looking at here. And again,
Mhm.
just like the way it's holding tight near 200. Again, the ants is just kind of reminding us that this is a stock that is under accumulation.
Mhm.
Transportation sector looks really strong here.
Well, you make a compelling case there, Ken. Elsewhere in transportation, let's go to United Airlines, a day of notable outperformance here, up 3.2%, working on a little cup with handle. So maybe some traders a little bit more aggressive might have nibbled shares today, but setting up ahead of a potential breakout.
And again, kind of a similar situation. United Airlines, you look back over the past few quarters, you're not seeing a company showing explosive earnings, the top line growth single digit, but the annual earnings starting to pick up the pace this year and next. The stock was up 3% today, and it's just kind of sitting right below that 120 level, just below that 118.94 pivot. United Airlines, not all the major carriers are in great technical shape here. United Airlines is probably one of the better run airlines, at least from an operational standpoint. And from the stock perspective, it's got a relative strength line that's up near high. So this is one of the better looking setups in the group. And I think it's just one worth watching with that relative strength line near highs and just below a buy point here. So another stock that is again expected to starting to turn the corner fundamentally this year and next. And one of my favorite airline stocks. Again, not every stock in the group looks this good. Some are lagging, but United Airlines looks to be one of the better performers here, and just
Yeah.
like the way it looks.
Yep.
And another, again, the transportation sector, just a lot of different subgroups in this area, but a lot of transport stocks looking strong here. And as the Nasdaq looks a little vulnerable, and you're seeing again chip stocks, contract manufacturers, fiber optics, a
Mhm.
lot of increased volatility in some of these higher multiple, higher PE stocks. Some other areas of the market, you're seeing these money flows, and so I think the transportation sector, it's been working for a while, but it still could have legs, I think, this year.
All right. Let's see if it can take off,
There
Ken.
you go.
Yeah.
Tee
And
that
I
tee that one up for you.
exactly, you did. You absolutely did. And I like seeing this RS line blue dot. You get that on the chart when you have the RS line at a high before a breakout as the stock is
Before
building a base or as it's breaking out. So to see that blue dot before the breakout, that
it, it
is
it's a
positive.
it's a particular sign of strength, and that's a good point because you get that blue dot, like you said, either when a stock is breaking out of a base, or you get
Mhm.
that blue dot when it is on the verge of
Mm,
breaking out of a base. So, United Airlines is still setting up, but the relative strength line is poking into new high ground, but the stock isn't quite there yet. So, just gives you it just shows you that this stock in particular is showing a lot of strength in the group, more so than a lot of other
yeah.
names in the group.
Mhm. Well said. All right, Ken, we always appreciate it. Thanks for the breakdown today.
You betcha. Good to have you back, Allie.
Thanks, Ken. Likewise. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. Programming note, since our podcast, our weekly Investing with IBD podcast was moved from yesterday to today, that's what we have on deck up next. So tune in live at 5 p.m. Eastern for this week's podcast episode featuring Greg Morton. This is going to be a discussion all about how to find those IPO gems. So don't miss it. Looking forward to that episode. And then we'll see you tomorrow morning on IBD Live, where we will be joined by a special guest, Don Vandenborg. It's sure to be a good show. So we'll see you then in the morning, starting 10 minutes before the opening bell, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details. We'll see you then. And we'll also see you right back here tomorrow after the close.